go. So we'll start with a brief recap of the last two lectures, and then I'm going to go into depth about all things in the ecosystem. Do drop messages in chats. Why are you saying oh no? Great. Oh, it's the girlfriend. Oh, sorry, I thought you were just worried about the workshop. And then go from there. Okie dokie kokie. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. We started this series by looking at Aptos in general. We introduced that it was a project originally from the Facebook blockchain project of DM and Libra before spinning out. Its main pitch is to be Web3 like Web2 and a focus on performance and reliability. We do this through parallel execution, having robust consensus, and by using Move, which has this security by design, a lot of the same features you'd notice in Rust. We want to focus on speed and composability to take on the major L1s, i.e. Solana and Ethereum. Theoretically, there is better performance on the Aptos ecosystem. Real-time metrics do trail, and the foundational pillar that you're going to be interacting with this in this program is Move. Move is a statistically typed, formally verified programming language. It's inspired by Rust, it's resource orientated, and it's going to treat digital assets like first-class citizens for security reasons. We're going to enforce strict rules on how resources can be handled, and skipping some of this, focus very much on security. This stuff is boring, in-depth stuff. We go. What else? So Move as a language is strongly typed, resource orientated, simple and developer friendly with security baked in. We have this concept of a resource and also the compiler, and we talked about modules and scripts and how those exist as sort of smart contracts in the Aptos ecosystems, and we won't go into this. And we then talked about doing a bit of an initial hello world, hello blockchain, a bit of coding too. Skipping through this. And now we're going to go on today to the ecosystem overview. Basically, I'm going to furnish you with a lot of projects that you can use on and with the Aptos ecosystem. Hopefully some tools that should be useful in part of the hackathon, which is ongoing, run by our friends at Dora Hacks. I will try and drop in lots of different projects as I go along. So first, let's talk about DeFi. DeFi is probably the thing that you should be, and the Aptos team want you to explore more than anything else. We first have to ask, what is DeFi? Clearly, definitionally, it's decentralized finance. The decentralized bit meaning it's a financial use case that is running on-chain. The on-chain part provides the decentralization through the robust consensus that Aptos has, and having a network of validators all coordinated by a token and on-chain governance. DeFi is probably the number one use case of crypto, in part because the original use case of cryptocurrency, of Bitcoin and APT as well, is as money, is recreating a monetary system. Money can exist, is effectively structured on a database. It is the central banks keep a record of who has what currencies, who owns what, who's spending what, and if there's any dispute, we can come to them for a source of truth. In much the same way, crypto can be that, or blockchain can be that database that keeps track of everything, except we have a sort of decentralized way to come to conclusion about who has what assets. Consensus therefore needs to be complicated and needs to make sure every party agrees. These are pretty much fundamental principles of blockchain. So within that, the monetary use case is baked in to Web3, and all protocols in some way, shape, or form are going after the monetary use case. And DeFi is, let's say, the rebuilding of other monetary use cases: lending, trading, borrowing, credit, and much more, using crypto, Lego crypto tools, and therefore also having the sovereignty of the individual user who has a wallet that he or she has access to directly through their private key, that they are in charge of that security and in charge of their account, and no one can stop them having access to their finances and to their assets. So DeFi already has a powerful use case, and most protocols are competing on and around DeFi. There are very specific projects we're going to talk about here and even show a few demos as well. So let's talk about some use cases around DeFi. So the first, obviously, is lending. So lending is why is lending important? It's important for us to establish the ability to borrow assets that aren't ours. There's a specific trading use case why this is needed, which is shorting, betting something will go down. Most financial use cases start with gambling in some way, shape, or form. Minimally trading and maximally it's gambling. This gambling, in the case of betting something goes down, is quite a simple, simple and complicated. If you think a token is going to go down, you can do this. It's not obvious how you would bet it would go down. You would borrow it off someone and pay an interest rate. You would sell that asset immediately, and you would wait for it to go down, then buy it back and return it to its original owner. This then means that you've effectively pocketed the difference in price between current price and future price, and never actually would never had to own the asset for a long period of time. You also might want to lend and borrow to make certain purchases, for tax reasons, to move into tokens that you otherwise didn't have access to, or that you want to sort of keep your underlying collateral and then move on. So there's a few obvious protocols to talk about here. The first and most famously is Aave. It's a lending protocol. It allows you. Let's have a look more directly. If I open the app, hope I don't lag too much here. So as you can see here, we can see assets that you can borrow. You can see my address as well. You can see this is taking it straight from my wallet, hence it's only 2 assets shown. The interest rate I would get, and also I can borrow here as well and also pay this certain interest rate over time. The more demand for an asset to be borrowed, the more expensive it's going to be. And there's a very large liquid market on Aptos for you to be able to borrow assets. In fact, I wasn't showing the right tab. There we go. So we see all the assets you can supply very nicely, and all the assets you can borrow as well. That's not the only lending protocol. So let's look at a few more. This is incredibly painful to do via live storms. So let's look at. So you've got Pact as well. Show my screen. This is a credit-focused one. So this is for structuring finance credit on chain. So a little bit different than traditional lending. If you want to do something with credit, involves asking for money that isn't fully collateralized. It's a little bit more complicated financial product. But Pact Labs is the one to look at. To stop myself moving between too many different things, I'm going to do everything within here. So next protocol I want to show you is Merkle Trade. This is for this is a DEX, but a DEX that allows you to do so with leverage. Leverage means that you borrow money in order to make a bigger trade than you otherwise be able to make. So you can do up to 150 times on Merkle Trade. This compares to a sort of normal DEX experience. A DEX means a decentralized exchange. Tabs are so painful. There we go. This is a classic DEX on Aptos. Solana, it sounds a bit odd, where we can, let's do this, share tab instead. Nice. Classic trade exchange like Uniswap, I can trade between a number of assets, all natively on Aptos. Let's show you some more. We have Ernium as well. Let's go through all this. Nice. Very much the similar, powered by Panora under the hood. If I just switch back here for a moment, I'm going to drop into chat a number of other protocols I'd like you to look at in your own time, and you might, and also suggest some ways you could copy or improve them for projects you're building in the hackathon and otherwise. I'm just going to close some tabs in the background because I am lagging. Nice. So let's also put the ones I've mentioned thus far. So we've got Aave. So this is taken directly from the Aptos ecosystem page, guys. So I highly encourage you to. There's a few other use cases specifically I want you to look at. So we're going to look specifically at Econia and specifically at Amnes. And then a few more just to drop into chat. Hyperon, Panora. Nice. Okay, so a few more use cases to look at specifically. So a couple of projects that we like very much that I think you should explore using. Let's share again. I want to stop sharing, reshare. You can see me for a second. There we go. Better. Okay. So Econia. So this is an on-chain order book. It provides order book protocol. Very good, very well-funded project. Done extremely well. You can build on and around it. I don't know if they're on the hackathon specifically. We share an investor, Dragonfly Ventures. One to certainly to look at specifically. I don't think they're necessarily in the hackathon, but I'm sure you'd get lots of good points for doing so. It doesn't have a public interface for you to use, so you'll have to interact directly with the smart contracts directly. Next is Amnes, so liquid staking. So liquid staking is where you can stake your Aptos in order to get some rewards as part of the normal validator and governance process. Amnes is protocol, one of the leading protocols doing that. Yeah, you put it here and you get Apt, which you can stake elsewhere. You get a very nice 7.78% on your money, which I think is pretty good, and 150 million is already staked. Okay, cool. Let us go further. So we have talked about, let's get my slides back. Let's have a look. Here we go. Okay, here we go. Good to see me again. Sorry. Cool. So we talked about lending. We've talked about staking. A few other projects I want to mention. So we have the concept of a launchpad. Launchpads are protocols who or companies, ecosystems whose job is to help incubate and accelerate new projects, advertise them. There's a few I want to flag. Solana Dex, the Dex we mentioned before, does this. I want to gonna put you here. Where is my chat gone? Nice. So Solana again, emoji, coin fun, and then we're going to look at a couple specifically. This one, Move GPT, we're going to look at specifically. Yeah, let's just look at Move. Move GPT. Let's get load very slowly. Impossibly slowly. Nope. Anyway, it's an AI launchpad built on Aptos, which I thought was very cool and a nice use case you could build during this program. But it is just loaded as soon as I jumped away. There we go. With a couple of nice projects already on there, you can see they do a lot of the marketing for you. Maybe something post hackathon as well. Very nice. Strongly recommend them, particularly post hackathon when you're building on Aptos. This is a specific IDO initial DEX offering that is happening at the moment. Cool. Moving on. Stablecoin. So stablecoin is something that allows us to have some form of transactable value that keeps its value, that is stable. So we can pay things like salaries, costs, etc. The obvious well-known ones are USDC, USDT, a few more to flag. You have Athena, which has done very, very well. You have a few sort of platforms on top, Thala Labs, which do DeFi around stablecoins, Ondo much the same. For stablecoins, you're probably going to be using one of the normal ones, USDC, USDT, or USDE, which is the third biggest on Aptos. Explorers, I talked about, you should know already. If you don't, the Aptos Explorer is here. Please use it for looking at on-chain transactions. There are a few others I want us to flag. Aptos Scan, and on the NFT side, NFT Scan. On the bridges side, if you want to move from bridges from Aptos to Ethereum or vice versa, I recommend Stargate. I'm putting all these in chat, guys, or Layer Zero. Also, Wormhole, big partner of Encode, work with us on many other programs, which I'm sure you'll be taking part in as well. Those are the ones I'd probably, you can use Seller. On the Bitcoin side, you could also use Echo. Wallet side, I would probably recommend Aptos Connect more than any others. Petra is also pretty good. The others, kind of much of muchness. They all work. They're all good, but I think one of those two is probably the best ones. NFTs on Aptos, which might be something you're exploring on the hackathon side. Aptos Monkeys is the kind of is quite a fun tool to use. And there's a few good projects on there, but this is the main one for sort of curation and NFT tooling, etc. That you might want to use. On the tooling side, a few obvious ones to flag: Aptos Name Service, ZKMe, which by the way came out of Encode. I actually forgot about this. Very nice project. Did one of our hackathons. We're very pleased about. They're good for sort of CKPs and ZK oracles. Those are the probably two main ones you should kind of know about. They kind of use, I'm not sure you necessarily use them. Tooling can mean many things. And it can include things like analytics, which I'm not really going into, except to flag a project called Space and Time, who's a good good partner of Encode, and does verified compute for data. I don't think any of you will go into gaming so much, so I'm not going to talk about that specifically. I am going to talk about oracles, and Oracle, of course, allows us to get external off-chain data on-chain. Our good friends at Pith and Switchboard are probably the ones. I'll drop them all in here. Pith there, and Switchboard also a good partner of Encode here. Then moving on to security, shouldn't be a concern for you now. Encode can obviously help you on the security side if needs be. You're probably looking at projects like Ossec, Zelic, Halborn are the kind of official partners. All very good, all very nice. On the social side, I'd really much like to see a social project sort of built. Nothing really that good within the Aptos ecosystem yet. There are some things, but a proper SocialFi network hasn't really emerged. AI-wise, there's a few good projects. Aptos Assistant, Flock, which is good friends of Encode. Random, very good friends of Encode, might be doing a workshop for you guys later, which uses sort of AI agents for DeFi. And the last one I want to actually look at specifically, guys, is go into the hackathon and recommend what I would build if I was you. So if you allow me, if that should show up nicely. Nice. So, I'm hoping you're all registered for this hackathon already. You'll notice a lot of the partners I've already mentioned here come up: the Hyperons, the Merkle Trades, the Circle for USDC, the Panoras. Examples of things that I would build that I think would be successful in this event. So, in terms of the bounties, we've got build with and around central limit order books. We're looking specifically at the maybe Econia, or the platforms like Merkle Trade, Hyperon, Tap. So we're looking for trading type applications, trading apps, maybe a prediction market. I think would do very well. Polymarket has done very well within the Ethereum community. On-chain matching agents, analytics dashboards, vault strategies. Maybe something like covered calls could do very well. New financial products, P2P lending, maybe something like an Euler, which came out of Encode, long tail lending of assets. Prediction markets just come up there. Options markets, maybe do something around leverage. Look at what's been successful on the Ethereum or Solana ecosystem and try and copy it. Social trading apps, Telegram trading bots, not my expertise, so I'm going to stay away. Payments, global remittances using stablecoins. So cool applications that natively use stablecoins, maybe around banking or payroll or the administration, fiat on ramps and off ramps for real world utilities. So that's quite hard, by the way. So that you're probably gonna have to think sort of more hypothetically, but you want to think of worlds where stablecoins would make payments quicker and better, but we don't have access. The lay user doesn't have the access. So we're looking at things in the gaming context. There's a project called Sorare. It's a football project, and that has a blockchain experience without you ever really realizing you're kind of controlling a wallet. That's a good example of that sort of fiat on ramp for general utility, for real world utility. SocialFi, definitely go into social networks, such as something sort of like Lens would be very nice, for instance, as well. In general, the tracks around building on DeFi, so that's where the most money. If you're a specific university team, you can do specifically very well there. My recommendation, prediction market. I think that'll do extremely well. If not, covered calls. If not, new and innovative stablecoin designs. You could do a stablecoin design around having sort of maybe two-tiered stablecoin system. One stablecoin which is It doesn't take much risk. It maybe holds all of its collateral in other stablecoins or Aptos itself, and different stablecoins with different risk parameters. They should mostly keep their price if the monetary policy is done well, but there's more risk they could move away. But for that risk, you get better return, and so that's better for people sort of minting the stablecoin to begin with or staking with it. So there's a natural interest you can sort of have there. Don't quite get into sort of terror economics that took down the system. But still, there's a few nice cases and you could easily build around all the protocols we've talked about here. Okay, guys, I think that's all for me for now. If you have questions, please go to the Discord. There is a question here, so I'll keep talking throughout it. My focus here is to be a font of advice to make sure you take part and you succeed in the hackathon by showing what works and basic introductions to the Aptos ecosystem, with an assumption you are, because I know you are, very good hackers and developers to begin with. And I'd like to see teams from Encode in this hackathon do extremely well. So I'm going to wait to see this question come into chat before finishing up. Some recommendations are stablecoin designs, complex sort of, not complex, like options platforms, covered call platform with protocol would do very well. AI agent trading things such as Giza, which is out of a project closely associated with Encode, would do very well. Or like a pure prediction market, I think would do excellently, really. This question doesn't look like it's coming. So if you go to the platform, my email is always there. Well, Rebecca's is, and it all comes back to me anyway. So you go into the platform, use and ask questions in the Discord, message Blake's on holiday, so I wonder if that will actually get to him. Rebecca, we will check that. Otherwise, I'm going to drop my email in here and you can speak to me. Cool. Good. All right, guys, thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Sorry for this being delayed. We have one more session tomorrow. We'll look more specifically about DeFi and more complicated use cases and explaining how some of the technology works under the hood. Thank you very much.